to talk about this issue, having the courage to come to the Capitol and sit down and have a conversation about something that maybe 2 years ago felt too taboo to even talk to your aunt about, and certainly to talk to a senator about. But they need those conversations, and that is what continues to move the ball forward. It feels slow sometimes in Texas, the way that we're moving forward, because we meet every 2 years at the Capitol for law changes. And right now we're in the interim. We're between legislative sessions, which gives us the opportunity to regroup, to network, to meet new people, to equip ourselves with the tools to be good advocates. And we want to hit the ground running when the legislature convenes in 2023. They meet in January through May. It's 140 days. And so between now and then, we need to do everything we can so we can hit the ground running. Make sure our lawmakers already know who we are and where we stand on this issue. Find out where they stand on the issue and what questions they have. You can learn a lot by asking the questions, because they're at the table now, they're ready to talk about it. They need to understand it a little bit better. It's not so much of a question of if, but how do we do this right? How do we avoid some of the pitfalls that other states have succumbed to, and that they've learned along the way, right? There's been evolving policies even in the motherland, Colorado. They still have problems with their law. They still have to be at the Capitol every time to be making sure that they're refining it, making sure we're putting reasonable regulations in place, that we're getting rid of overly burdensome regulations that don't work. And we need to talk about doing it right in Texas. How can we make sure we have reasonable regulations? We have reasonable tax rates that don't incentivize a criminal market. Instead, allowing, again, for the market to come into the light of day, where there's transparency, there's accountability, and there's opportunity for those who want to use the plant and for those who want to be entrepreneurs in that industry. We couldn't make this event happen without our sponsors, and I am so grateful for everyone who has contributed to making this a great event. Our speakers have entirely come on their own dime, so we can thank them for their contributions to coming to this event. Our sponsors have made it possible for us to have everything we need to host the event for you today. And I'm especially grateful for our premier sponsors, Texas A&M's Soil and Crop Sciences Department, which is actively doing cannabis research right here on campus. These are their plants that they're researching.
Woo-woo! Woo-woo!
Very exciting stuff. And they're doing it with the partnership of our other premier sponsor, Rare Earth Genomics. And they're working in the lab to create the genetics that are going to provide the farmers the confidence they need to provide to create the crops that help to fuel the industry. And Texas A&M is also doing field research. They're looking at the fiber varieties of hemp. So we all talk a lot about cannabinoids and how these medicines can help people and work with consumable hemp products. But there's a lot of opportunity in hemp and in cannabis outside of that. When we talk about building materials, we talk about plastics, biofuels, all of these things, and everything is really just getting started. There's a ton of opportunity, whether it's in the cannabinoid market or in the industrial market. And so we're going to learn more about that throughout the weekend. And I also just want to give a very special thank you to our organizers. Is Lisa here and Amanda? Do we have our organizers here? There we go. My role has transitioned in this organization, and I'm still serving on the board and have been a big part of making this event happen. But as my role continues to evolve, we need to have people stepping up to do more, and our movement is evolving, and we're seeing that in leadership from those who are stepping up to make it happen. So I am very grateful for all the volunteers who have made this happen, all of our sponsors, all of our speakers. It is going to be a great weekend. So I want to mention a couple of housekeeping things, run through the agenda. We all have our programs that came in our bags, which have a ton of awesome swag from our sponsors. And so I want to run through this real quick, but I don't want to cut into Max Montrose's time. So we are going to run through this briefly, and then I'm going to kick it over to him to offer us a Cannabis 101, although it probably will be a little bit more in-depth than 101, knowing Max and his depth of knowledge of the plant. I'm really excited for his presentation to kick us off for this weekend. So I talked a little bit about our organization and who we are. We've got our schedule broken down here. Of course, our coalition partners, all of our awesome sponsors, gold sponsors, supporting sponsors, Premier, Platinum, these folks who have contributed significantly. But I want to bring your attention to our silent auction that we have in the back. We are going to be using this to, of course, raise money for the work that we're doing this year as we make our way toward the 2023 legislative session. And we've done it in a unique way this year. Not only do we have some items back here for you to bid on, but we're doing it online. So there's a QR code where you can bid online. It is in your program also, but every display has a QR code. So please take a look at what our sponsors and other supporters have generously donated. You might find some great things. We've already raised a bit of money on it, which is great. People are already active, and so I encourage you to check that out. So I mentioned Max Montrose is going to be our first speaker, but after that we're going to have 3 simultaneous tracks happening. A lot of content. We are actually live streaming, so those who are tuning in live, hello. And we will have these videos available afterwards because obviously you can't be in 3 places at once. So we're going to have videos available afterwards for you to catch up on the content that you weren't able to attend in person. This, of course, is the ballroom, and then we have 2 breakout rooms that are on the other side of that wall. We have breakout D and breakout E. And that's where you're going to find all the details in your program, and that's where you're going to find those speakers. Really looking forward to talking about, the law and advocacy, but also learning more about cannabis science and learning about the industry and how it's evolving. A lot of personal experiences. We have entrepreneurs here today that are operating in the cannabis industry in Texas and elsewhere who can help to bring that knowledge here, help us learn those best practices, and to move forward in a positive way in Texas. I am especially excited about our keynote presentation today at lunch. We have Representative Joe Moody, who has been just a tremendous champion of reform for years now, every legislative session, coming back, building bridges with his colleagues, working with folks on both sides of the aisle to find common ground and to move forward. And so we're going to hear from him as well as Shannon Edmonds, who is the representative for the Texas District and County Attorney Association. And of course, we're going to talk more about that, but I just have to note that when we talk about building bridges, this is a representative from the Prosecutors Association of Texas. And it is not often that we're able to have people like him coming to the table and having these conversations. Representative Moody has been able to build that bridge, able to bring them to the table so that we can talk about what the concerns are of law enforcement, how to practically unwind all of these years of prohibition and these systems that have been put in place, because we certainly need to unwind these systems that have been failing us. And working with folks like Shannon are really going to do that. And then we have Chris Lindsey with the Marijuana Policy Project, who I worked with directly for about 4 years on Texas work, which was great. Glad to have him back. He's now working on national politics. So he's going to be able to give us the latest on what's happening at the federal level and how that's impacting states as they evolve their policies, which are all on different tracks. There's so much to keep up with, so many moving parts in this industry. So lots to be excited about. Tonight we have our awards banquet. Representative White. James White is a conservative from East Texas who gets it, who understands that there is nothing conservative about prohibition, which is something that Ann Lee is saying. So excited to have him here, and we are going to be presenting him with a leadership award for the work that he's done in the Texas House of Representatives. Tomorrow our keynote speech is Mayor Mayor. And he is with PharmaCann. PharmaCann is a multi-state operator that is obviously operating in multiple states where they have lots of evolving policies and regulations. So I'm excited to hear about his perspective on what's happening out there and what we can do in Texas to make sure that we make the most of our path forward. And we'll be closing out with a closing session, which is where everybody comes back in, just like in our opening session. It'll be myself, Jack Spinkle with Texas NORML, who I'm excited to have here tomorrow, John Bauckham with Republicans Against Marijuana Prohibition, and Chase Bearden. These are some of the core advocates at the Capitol, and we're going to be talking about what the future looks like and how we can all get involved. We also have a veteran panel tomorrow, which is going to be in this room just before the closing session. David Bass is going to be leading that. He's a retired Army major and has been just a tremendous advocate for years. And veterans are tremendous advocates at the Capitol talking about this issue. They've got PTSD added as a qualifying condition, and you know what? They didn't let it be for only veterans.
Let's go. Shout out to the vets, man.
We have seen great strides in Texas, and we will continue the momentum with the good work that we're doing here this weekend, and that we will continue to do with the relationships that we build. So I want to thank you very much for being here, and without further ado, I would like to introduce Max Montrose, who is with the Trichome Institute.
Max.
They produce educational materials, in-depth content for folks who want to really understand the plant and how it works. And what I love about Max is that he's not just isolated to cannabis, which of course course is important and is the topic of today, but he works on lots of different sacred medicines and plant medicines. And I think that we have to look at this from a holistic perspective on what we have access to, what we allow the government to tell us that we can and can't use when we think that it's going to help our health. And so I appreciate Max and all the good work that he does. The Triathlon Institute is one of our platinum sponsors with generous contributions of the jewels. You have the magnifying glasses. So if you in your bag open that up and you want to check out the A&M booth and get a good look at these buds, you're going to be able to do that thanks to the Triathlon Institute. So help me welcome Max Montrose.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Heather, Lisa. Typically, where I come from, we say what's up, but now that I'm here, I'll say howdy, y'all. Man, is it good to be in Texas, talking about my favorite thing in the whole world, cannabis. So I'm really excited to share this presentation with you guys. But first, I wanted to thank Texas